Hello Imvu creators, today I'll be showing you how to make a simple accessory in Blender. First thing we're going to do is add a mesh, and I'm going to use a cone because I am going to be making some horns. And this is actually a bit too massive, so we have to make that quite a bit smaller over on the side here. You do not have to worry about finessing it too much at this stage, since I'll be shaping it more in edit mode. I was thinking about adding the mirror modifier so I could make the mesh symmetrical, but I couldn't get it to work for some reason, probably because I haven't parented this to the armature yet. I'm not too concerned because there's more than one way to mirror a mesh. Now to make the shape look more rounded, I need to set the face shading to smooth like so. If you do want something to look more like a crystal, you would leave the face shading to flat. I then rotate this to the angle I wanted, and now I'm going to move it into place along the head. Pressing only render also helps hide the armature, which can make editing a little bit easier. I'm going to quickly make a save file for this so I can save my progress as I go on, and just in case I crash. I then select the edge loop and press E to extrude this section. I first need to turn off the proportional editing, or else it's just going to stretch that whole section. With the base in place, I select this edge loop, press W, and then smooth it a couple times until it's in more of the shape I want. I then press Ctrl and R and use the mouse wheel to make some cuts there. Don't go too crazy though, you don't want to have too many polys. It just adds extra KBS that is unnecessary. I now turn proportional editing back on so I can sort of refine the shape a little bit better. I pressed R and adjusted the size of the brush just to help give the horns a bit more of a natural curve instead of just looking like straight up cones plastered to your forehead. After adjusting the shape a bit more, I decided to make the base a bit thicker. So turning proportional editing to this, I decided to press Alt S and made it a bit fatter at the bottom there. I press Ctrl E to mark a seam after I have the edge loop selected. I delete the interior face here since I don't need that. And pressing A to select everything, I press U, unwrap, and then I have it placed right there on the material I made earlier. Oh yes, I actually need to make a material slot there for it, not just the texture. But I'll give this a little name as well, and a slot number. And I'm adjusting the UV map on the side here. I'm just going to keep it a simple triangle, not worry too much about it. I'm also going to create another material slot for the other horn. With everything selected, I press Shift D to make a copy of the horn. And then I mirror this and slide it into place. I also have to remember to flip normals because when you do make something and mirror it, it will actually basically turn the mesh inside out, so you have to revert it again. And now I got a pair of horns. Now another pair of horns seems a little bit boring, so I'm actually going to add an any shape thing in the middle of the forehead. This is basically something that you can add an opacity map to create different shapes, so it can look like a little gem or tattoo or whatever you can come up with. So I just add a flat plane and then move it into place. I'm also going to subdivide this and give it a bit more shape so that it fits a little bit nicer on the forehead. For the UV map, I'm actually going to use Project from View, since it is just a simple square. Now I'm going to duplicate and layer up this mesh so when people use opacity maps, it'll give it the illusion of thickness. Now we have the shape, but it's not attached to the avatar's skeleton, and so we will have to parent it to the armature. Since I chose the empty groups option, I'm going to manually paint it in by selecting the head bone. I'm going into pose mode and then clicking the mesh. And then for the X-ray part and mix, and I'll put it up all the way and just completely cover that in red since this doesn't have to be attached to any other bone. You can tell if it's weighted properly when you move the bone and the mesh moves with it. After a quick save, I export it as FBX. I then derive from the empty male clothing. When making an accessory item, you have to make sure you use a higher number so you do not override any of the body parts. I also like putting on an outfit to see how the item works with everyday use. It seems to hang off a little bit far on a regular head. The default avatar heads tend to be rather large and no one really uses these anymore except for like within meshing. So I'm going to move everything back a little bit along the y-axis. I also like testing things a lot, so I tend to try things on and off and adjust them a little bit at a time. I decided to double this up and make it even thicker, just so when the shape is made it won't look too flat. And you can really get in there nice and close when you zoom in. Now that I'm happy with the shape, it is ready to be derived as a plain mesh, or a texture can be added. Since the goal of the video was to teach about the meshing, I'll end it here and maybe do a textured one in the future. Good luck and happy creating!